Welcome to a journey that will challenge everything you thought you knew about perseverance and the human spirit. Today we're diving into one of the most haunting tales ever conceived, the story of a warrior named Luong, whose existence has become an endless nightmare spanning 3,000 years. Picture this. You open your eyes to the same exact moment every single morning. The same eerie silence fills the air. The same cold dawn breaks across a twisted landscape. For most of us, repetition in daily life can feel monotonous. But for Luong, this repetition isn't just boring. It's a prison that has held him captive for 3 millennia. Luong exists trapped within what are known as the Shadow Realms, mysterious dimensions that run parallel to our own reality. These aren't pleasant alternate worlds filled with wonder and magic. Instead, they're nightmarish landscapes populated by creatures that seem pulled directly from our deepest fears and darkest dreams. Every dawn brings the same ritual of horror. As the sun rises over these cursed lands, so do the monsters. These aren't your typical fantasy creatures with understandable motivations or predictable behaviors. They're pure manifestations of terror itself, beings that exist solely to destroy and consume everything in their path. Their forms defy description, shifting and writhing like living shadows given substance and malevolent purpose. And every single day, without fail, Luong must face them in battle, not because he chooses to be a hero, not because he's on some noble quest, but because survival demands it. 3,000 years of the same fight, the same struggle, the same desperate attempt to see another sunrise that will inevitably bring the exact same horrors all over again. Try to comprehend the psychological weight of such an existence. We struggle when we have a bad week at work or when we're stuck in traffic during our daily commute. Now imagine experiencing the absolute worst day imaginable, over and over, with no variation, no relief, and no end in sight. The monsters become as familiar as old acquaintances. Their terrifying roars become background noise. The adrenaline rush of mortal combat becomes as routine as brushing your teeth. But perhaps the cruelest aspect of Luong's curse isn't the physical danger or even the endless repetition. It's the complete and utter isolation. While he retains full memory of every single loop, every battle, every small victory and crushing defeat, the rest of the world forgets. Any connections he makes, any friendships he forms, any lives he touches, all of it vanishes with each reset, like morning mist disappearing in sunlight. Imagine carrying 3,000 years' worth of memories, experiences, and relationships in your mind, while being the only person who knows they ever happened. The weight of that knowledge would crush most souls. Every person he saved doesn't remember being saved. Every ally who fought beside him has no recollection of their shared struggles. He exists in a state of perpetual emotional solitude that makes physical isolation seem trivial by comparison. The Shadow Realms themselves seem designed to maximize suffering. These dimensions don't follow the natural laws we understand. Landscapes shift without warning, adapting specifically to torment whoever finds themselves trapped within. It's as if the very fabric of these realms possesses a malevolent intelligence dedicated to ensuring escape remains impossible. Time loses all meaning in such a place. 3,000 years might as well be 3 million or 3 days. Each moment stretches into eternity, when you know it will simply repeat endlessly. Hope becomes a luxury that few could afford to maintain under such circumstances. Most would surrender to despair, perhaps even welcome the madness that might provide escape from such awareness. Yet here's where Luong's story becomes truly extraordinary. Despite facing odds that would break anyone else, despite enduring isolation that would drive most people insane, despite fighting the same hopeless battle for longer than most civilizations have existed, his spirit remains intact. Something deep within him refuses to surrender to the darkness that surrounds him. This isn't about superhuman strength or magical powers. This is about the raw, inexplicable resilience of will that some individuals possess. It's about finding meaning in meaninglessness, maintaining humanity in inhuman circumstances, and keeping alive the smallest spark of hope when logic suggests hope is foolish. What drives someone to continue fighting when victory seems impossible? What keeps a person sane when their reality defies sanity? What makes someone choose to keep getting up, day after day, millennium after millennium, to face the same impossible odds? These questions lie at the heart of Luong's incredible story, a tale that challenges our understanding of endurance, tests the limits of what we believe possible, and ultimately asks whether the human spirit can truly be unbreakable. His journey through these shadow realms isn't just about survival, it's about what it means to remain human when humanity itself seems lost. But Luong isn't the only one fighting against the shadows. In this dark world, a new force has emerged: the Hunters. These warriors weren't born with extraordinary gifts. They started as regular individuals, living mundane lives until devastating circumstances changed everything. The transformation into a hunter begins with intense trauma or life-threatening situations that push someone beyond their breaking point. A parent watching their child disappear into darkness. A survivor trapped beneath rubble as monsters prowl overhead. A person witnessing their entire community destroyed in a single night. These overwhelming moments of crisis act as catalysts, unlocking hidden potential that lies dormant within certain individuals. The awakening process is different for everyone, but the result is always the same. Ordinary humans suddenly possess extraordinary capabilities that allow them to stand against supernatural threats. The variety of abilities that emerge is staggering. Some hunters discover they can channel raw physical power, their muscles becoming dense enough to crush stone and their reflexes sharp enough to dodge attacks faster than the eye can follow. Others develop supernatural speed, becoming blurs of motion that can outmaneuver even the swiftest creatures of darkness. There are those who command the elements themselves, summoning flames that burn away shadow or ice that can freeze nightmares in their tracks. Each hunter's power seems to reflect something deep within their personality or their moment of awakening. A firefighter might develop immunity to heat and the ability to control flames. Someone who survived drowning could find themselves breathing underwater and manipulating currents. The connection between trauma and ability suggests that these powers emerge as the universe's response to human determination to survive and protect others. Luong himself stands as a fascinating example within the hunter community. Despite his 3 millennia of existence, he's considered a newcomer among established hunters. This seeming contradiction exists because his survival through the ages wasn't achieved through his own strength alone. Instead, he owes his continued existence to the mentorship and protection provided by generations of veteran hunters who recognized something special within him. These experienced warriors saw potential in Luong when he had nothing to offer in return. They shared their combat knowledge, teaching him how to read enemy movements, how to exploit weaknesses, and how to survive encounters that would destroy lesser fighters. More importantly, they provided emotional support during his darkest moments, helping him maintain his humanity while surrounded by inhuman threats. The relationship between Luong and his mentors represents the heart of hunter culture. Veterans understand that raw power means nothing without proper guidance and emotional stability. They invest countless hours training newcomers, knowing that each successful student represents hope for humanity's future. This mentorship extends beyond combat techniques to include psychological preparation for the horrors hunters must face. Unfortunately, the hunter's path is littered with tragedy. Many of Luong's teachers died protecting him, and others, their final moments spent ensuring that knowledge and hope would survive even if they couldn't. These deaths weren't meaningless sacrifices. They were calculated investments in humanity's survival. Each fallen mentor believed that their student would eventually surpass them and carry their legacy forward. The weight of these sacrifices shapes every aspect of Luong's existence. He trains with desperate intensity, knowing that every moment of weakness dishonors those who died for him. Their techniques live on through his movements, their strategies guide his decisions, and their unwavering faith in humanity's potential drives him to attempt impossible feats. The broader hunter community mirrors this cycle of mentorship and sacrifice. New hunters emerge regularly as the world's dangers continue escalating, each one requiring guidance from those who survived longer. Veterans recognize their responsibility to prepare the next generation, while simultaneously accepting that they might not live to see the fruits of their labor. This creates a unique culture where individual achievement matters less than collective survival. Hunters celebrate each other's victories and mourn each other's defeats because they understand that every loss weakens humanity's defense against encroaching darkness. They form bonds that transcend typical friendship, creating support networks essential for maintaining sanity in an insane world. The transformation from helpless civilian to capable hunter involves more than just gaining supernatural abilities. It requires accepting enormous responsibility for protecting those who cannot protect themselves. This psychological burden proves too heavy for some, leading to breakdown or abandonment of their duties. Those who persevere discover inner strength they never knew existed. 3,000 years of existence would fundamentally transform any human being, and Luong exemplifies this transformation in the most extraordinary ways imaginable. While most people struggle to master a single profession in their lifetime, this man has accumulated expertise across disciplines that seem impossible to combine. Consider the sheer breadth of knowledge required for battlefield surgery. When civilization crumbled and medical infrastructure vanished, Luong witnessed countless deaths that could have been prevented. Rather than accepting this tragedy, he made an unprecedented decision to become the doctor his world desperately needed. Picture him in those early centuries, methodically studying human anatomy through whatever resources remained. He memorized the precise locations of major arteries, learned to identify internal bleeding patterns, and developed techniques for emergency procedures using improvised tools. His surgical skills weren't learned in sterile classrooms, but forged in blood-soaked battlefields where every second determined life or death. The precision required for surgery translates remarkably well to combat effectiveness. The same steady hands that perform delicate operations also wield weapons with surgical accuracy. His understanding of human anatomy gives him tactical advantages in battle, knowing exactly where to strike for maximum effectiveness while minimizing unnecessary harm. Then, there's his technological prowess, which seems almost anachronistic in his monster-plagued world. Ancient technological systems still function throughout the Shadow Realms, remnants of whatever civilization existed before the catastrophe. While others see these systems as mysterious relics, Luong recognized their potential strategic value. His hacking abilities developed from necessity rather than curiosity. Information became currency in his fight for survival, and these forgotten computer networks contained crucial intelligence about monster movements, safe routes, and hidden resources. He taught himself programming languages, learned to navigate complex security protocols, and mastered digital infiltration techniques that would impress modern cybersecurity experts. This technological expertise serves multiple purposes beyond information gathering. He's disabled security systems to access restricted areas, manipulated communication networks to coordinate with other survivors, and even reprogrammed automated defenses to work against the monsters instead of protecting abandoned facilities. But perhaps his most remarkable skill is mental cartography, the ability to maintain perfect spatial memory across vast territories. The Shadow Realms constantly shift and change, yet Luong has mapped every significant location in his mind with photographic precision. This mental atlas represents 3 millennia of exploration and discovery. Every pathway through treacherous terrain, every hidden shelter, every safe crossing point exists perfectly preserved in his memory. He navigates these dangerous landscapes with the confidence of someone walking through their childhood neighborhood, except his neighborhood spans dimensions and contains horrors beyond imagination. This navigational mastery makes him invaluable to other survivors. He's guided countless people through impossible situations, leading them along routes that exist only in his accumulated experience. His mental map updates constantly as he discovers new passages or notes, changes in familiar territory. The psychological impact of maintaining such detailed spatial awareness cannot be understated. His mind has become a living library of geographical knowledge, storing information that would fill countless physical maps and guidebooks. What makes these accomplishments truly remarkable is their interconnected nature. His surgical knowledge helps him treat injuries sustained during dangerous expeditions. His hacking skills provide intelligence about safe routes and monster locations. His navigational expertise gets him to places where both medical and technological skills prove essential. Yet here lies the crushing irony of his situation. Despite mastering skills that would make him legendary in any normal timeline, none of his expertise brings him closer to breaking free from his temporal prison. Every dawn erases his achievements, resets his progress, and forces him to start over. The people he saves forget his heroic actions. The lives he preserves return to their original endangered states. The relationships he builds vanish as if they never existed. His accumulated knowledge remains, but its practical applications become meaningless when nothing permanent can be achieved. This creates an existential crisis that would break most minds. Why continue developing these abilities when their ultimate purpose remains unfulfilled? Why perfect skills that can never lead to lasting change? The temptation toward nihilism must be overwhelming, yet Luong persists, driven by something deeper than hope for escape. Perhaps it's the simple human need to make each moment matter, regardless of whether that moment will be remembered. Maybe it's the recognition that growth itself has value, even when progress gets erased. His mastery represents humanity's refusal to surrender to meaninglessness. Even trapped in an endless cycle, Even facing ultimate futility, the human spirit continues striving for excellence, connection, and purpose. After 3 millennia trapped in an endless nightmare, Luong's ultimate confrontation finally arrives. The dark throne room pulses with malevolent energy as he faces the architect of his suffering. This creature, this cosmic puppeteer, has orchestrated every death, every reset, every moment of anguish across thousands of years. Luong draws upon the vast reservoir of experience accumulated through countless cycles. The sword techniques perfected through repetition, the magical abilities honed to razor precision, the strategic insights gained from watching patterns unfold again and again. His body moves with supernatural fluidity, muscle memory encoding millennia of combat wisdom. The battle erupts with devastating intensity. The entity unleashes attacks that would have obliterated Luong in his first cycle, but now he weaves between them like shadow made flesh. He remembers every mentor's guidance, every fallen comrade's sacrifice, every seemingly absurd skill that somehow proves crucial in this moment. The cooking expertise translates to perfect timing. The merchant experience reveals the creature's tells and weaknesses. With each exchange, Luong feels the weight of his journey crystallizing into pure determination. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about justice for everyone who suffered, redemption for every failure, and hope for a future beyond this endless torment. The creature's movements become predictable, its rage making it sloppy. Luong exploits every opening with surgical precision, combining powers in ways that defy conventional understanding. Fire and ice dance together, time magic bends reality, and raw willpower transforms into tangible force. Then comes the decisive moment. Everything aligns: position, timing, energy, intent. Luong channels every ounce of power into one final strike that cuts through dimensions themselves. The creature's scream echoes across realities as its form begins disintegrating, darkness peeling away like burnt parchment. Light floods the throne room, washing away 3,000 years of accumulated shadow. The oppressive weight that has crushed Luong's soul finally lifts, leaving him gasping as freedom tastes sweeter than any victory he's ever known. Reality shifts, and suddenly he's opening his eyes to genuine sunlight streaming through familiar curtains. The scent of breakfast drifts from downstairs. Not the artificial sensations of a simulated world, but the authentic aromas of home. His hands shake as he touches the bedsheets, feeling their texture with wonder. Everything is real. Everything is finally, impossibly real. The emotional dam bursts without warning. Tears cascade down his face as the magnitude of his liberation crashes over him. 3,000 years of pain, loss, and desperate hope culminate in this single moment of pure relief. The nightmare has ended. He has won. Footsteps thunder up the stairs, and Lu Yao bursts through the door. His sister's face radiates joy and concern as she takes in his tear-stained features. Their embrace feels like coming back to life. Warm, grounding, achingly real after millennia of isolation. Lu Yao peppers him with questions about where he's been, her worry evident despite her happiness. She speaks of sleepless nights and constant prayers, of never giving up hope despite everyone else's doubts. Her unwavering faith becomes another testament to the bond that sustained Luong through his darkest hours. As they talk, sharing tears and tentative laughter, Luong marvels at how their connection transcends even temporal prison. Lu Yao remains his anchor to humanity, the reminder of who he was before the darkness claimed him. She sees through the changes in him, the haunted depth in his eyes, the unconscious way he scans for threats, but her love remains constant. Yet even in this moment of triumph, responsibility weighs on Luong's mind. The Shadow Realm still exists, filled with creatures that could threaten innocent people. Others remain trapped in similar nightmares, suffering as he once suffered. His knowledge and abilities come with obligation. He cannot simply retreat into peaceful obscurity, while darkness lurks beyond the veil. The solution crystallizes with startling clarity. He will create something unprecedented. A guild unlike any that exists, built not just for profit or glory, but for protection and redemption. He will call it Breaking Dawn, symbolizing hope emerging from the longest night, new beginnings rising from apparent endings. This guild will gather the extraordinary individuals he fought alongside during his imprisonment, companions whose strength and character were forged in the same crucible that transformed him. Together they will form a bulwark against shadow, a sanctuary for those who have suffered, and a family bound by shared purpose rather than mere convenience. Breaking Dawn represents everything Luong learned during his ordeal: the power of persistence, the necessity of connection, and the truth that even the deepest darkness cannot extinguish hope. This guild will be his gift to a world that doesn't yet understand what threatens it. But Luong knows their greatest test lies ahead. The liberation from his personal hell was just the beginning. A catastrophe beyond imagination approaches, and only Breaking Dawn will stand ready to face it. The nightmare had returned, but this time everything was different. This time, Luong wouldn't face the darkness alone. Above Tokyo's sprawling cityscape, reality itself began to tear apart. A massive rift split the sky open, creating a swirling vortex of pure malevolence that pulsed with otherworldly energy. From this dimensional gateway, an army of shadow creatures began pouring into our world like a torrent of living nightmares. The invasion commenced without warning. Citizens fled in terror as grotesque monsters descended upon the streets. These weren't ordinary beasts. They were amalgamations of pure darkness, sporting razor-sharp claws, gnashing fangs, and writhing tendrils that moved with unnatural speed and purpose. Within minutes, Tokyo transformed from a vibrant metropolis into a hellish battleground. Buildings crumbled under the assault, fires erupted across entire districts, and screams echoed through the concrete canyons. This was what hunters called a catastrophe-grade mission, the most dangerous classification in their world. These operations were reserved exclusively for the most experienced and skilled warriors, because the stakes couldn't be higher. Failure didn't just mean death. It meant the complete collapse of the barriers separating our world from the Shadow Realm, potentially allowing these creatures to consume everything we hold dear. But Luong had spent months preparing for exactly this scenario. The training sessions leading up to this moment had been absolutely grueling. Every member of Breaking Dawn had pushed themselves beyond their limits through intensive physical conditioning designed to build unshakable stamina. They'd practiced combat drills that emphasized seamless teamwork and strategic coordination. Hours were devoted to elemental magic training, learning to weave their individual abilities together into devastatingly effective combinations. Shia had emerged as their agility specialist, her movements fluid and precise, like a deadly dancer. She'd taken on the responsibility of mentoring other guild members in evasion techniques and precision strike methods, sharing her expertise in reading enemy movement patterns and exploiting weaknesses. Zhao had become their elemental warfare expert, mastering the art of coordinating multiple magical disciplines simultaneously. She taught her companions to synchronize their abilities with her powers, creating spectacular combinations of fire, ice, and lightning that could devastate entire groups of enemies. However, the most valuable thing they'd developed wasn't any combat technique. It was unshakable trust. Through countless shared struggles, moments of laughter during exhausting training sessions, and unwavering support through inevitable setbacks, they'd transcended being merely a team. They'd become a family bound by purpose and mutual respect. As the invasion unfolded across Tokyo, Luong stood at the epicenter of chaos, his pulse quickening as adrenaline flooded his system. His voice cut through the panic like a blade. "Breaking Dawn! Move out!" The command rallied his companions, who responded with immediate precision. They moved across the battlefield like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of destruction. Each member fulfilled their specialized role while maintaining awareness of the greater strategy. Shia became a blur of motion, darting through the mayhem to guide terrified civilians toward evacuation points while simultaneously engaging any monsters that threatened the innocent. Zhao conjured massive barriers of elemental energy, creating walls of fire and ice that provided crucial protection for fleeing citizens. Luong led from the front lines, drawing upon 3 millennia of accumulated battle experience to anticipate threats and coordinate their collective response. During one critical moment, Luong spotted a young girl who had frozen in absolute terror as a shadow creature approached her position. Time seemed to decelerate as his enhanced perception kicked in. He sprinted forward, placing himself directly between the child and the advancing monster. "Get away from her!" His strike connected with devastating force, sending the creature tumbling backward through the debris-strewn street. "Run! Get to safety!" he shouted to the girl, who nodded and fled toward the evacuation zone. The battle's urgency was absolutely crushing. Every passing second brought more creatures through the dimensional rift, more innocent lives hanging in the balance, more potential for catastrophic failure. The longer that gateway remained open, the greater the risk of complete dimensional collapse. But this confrontation was fundamentally different from Luong's previous encounters with shadow forces. This time, he wasn't fighting as a lone warrior carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. He had Breaking Dawn, warriors who had earned each other's complete trust through dedication and sacrifice. They'd trained together through countless hours of preparation, learning to anticipate each other's moves and cover each other's weaknesses. Most importantly, they absolutely refused to allow darkness to claim victory over the innocent. The creatures kept coming in seemingly endless waves, but Breaking Dawn held their ground. They fought with the coordination of veterans, despite many of them being relatively new to this level of combat. Their training had prepared them well, but it was their bond as a family that gave them the strength to push beyond their individual limitations. As the battle raged through Tokyo's streets, Breaking Dawn stood as an unbreakable shield protecting humanity from the encroaching shadows. They represented hope in the face of despair, light pushing back against overwhelming darkness, and living proof that even after 3,000 years of suffering and struggle, the human spirit could never be truly broken. Their guild symbol blazed with inner fire as they fought together, each member contributing their unique strengths to their collective power. This was their moment of truth, their chance to prove that the dawn could indeed break through even the longest night. This was Breaking Dawn's story, the tale of warriors who chose to stand together against impossible odds, who refused to let fear dictate their actions, and who believed that hope could triumph over any darkness.